Da, 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 da. You were married in June?
I was.
Oh, you were a June bride.
I was a June bride. It's 25 years this year.
Really?
Yes.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Historified with Chestnut Square. Today we are doing our June podcast, which I would think would be pretty obvious because it is June. And Annie, what are you wearing?
Well, I'm kind of wearing maybe a wedding dress. This is a little less fancy than my original wedding dress, but you know, I was married in June. So
You do look like you're getting married. You're talking about the chapel this month,
we
right?
are. We're talking about the chapel, the Foote Baptist Chapel, and wedding gardens and all things brides. In 1904, the church known as the Foote Baptist Church was chartered or constituted. They were meeting in a school. So people got together and they would meet for their Sunday services. And on July 28, 1908, they started a subscription to, you had to buy in, I guess, to build a new church.
I wonder what that looked like.
I don't know.
Buy a subscription, knock on the door. We'd like to sell you a subscription to the Foote Missionary Baptist Church.
So that we can build a building.
So, but I think it's fast. Obviously,
Yes.
It happened. It worked because it was built.
Yes. They built a brand new church building. And the reason why it was called the Foote Missionary Baptist Church is because Mr. Foote put up the land that it was built on.
And that's Foot with an E.
Yes.
F-O-O-T-E.
Not footy, but foot. Jamie, how much did that original building cost?
It was $800 to $900.
Wow. What a bargain. Well,
What
in
can you build
1908,
now? What can you build now for $800, $900? A chicken coop?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I'll let you guys know because I'm going to be building one. I feel like...
You could name it the Foote Chicken Coop.
chicken coop.
So, just a little bit about the history of the Foote Baptist Church. In 1938, it was outfitted for electricity. And in 1949, the porch was added.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that, to be honest.
So they added things, gradually. And it was a running church until, I believe, the 1980s, I think, is when they stopped.
Could you imagine, being in there with no AC?
Oh, my gosh.
So
in Texas?
I can't imagine that. I'm sure even with electricity, they still didn't have AC.
Right.
I can just see all, the ladies in there with the fans.
That's why they had the fans, yeah.
The big hats.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to be married, even though this dress is kind of light. It's still long-sleeved.
It's so pretty.
Look
I
at the lace.
was gonna do a wedding dress for this podcast because I knew we were gonna do the chapel in our wedding gardens. So, when was the first wedding?
Actually, I looked this up, and the first wedding was between Reverend John Wallace and Miss Jessie Carter, who was a resident of McKinney. Her family was well known in McKinney. And it was January 19th, 1916, was the very first wedding that took place in our chapel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I also know that you got more information on that particular wedding.
Yes, I did. And I would like to say that Miss Layla Lester sang a beautiful song called To Have, To Hold, To Love. Would you like to hear a little bit of that song?
I would love to hear a little bit of that song.
I'm going to pull out, all the stops. And here's a little snippet.
I don't think that's Layla singing.
I hope not.
Okay. Well, it gives you an idea.
Yes. Whoops. Layla doesn't want to stop.
Keep singing. Verse 2.
I'm sure that John and Jesse were just thrilled to pieces to have that song sung at their wedding. And that was the very first wedding that took place in our chapel. And over the years, I think over probably 1,500 weddings have taken place in our chapel. So,
and you can still get married there today.
yes, in the lovely historic Foote Baptist Chapel.
So something you may not know about Chestnut Square is we do have weddings here, as we were just talking. So you can get married at our chapel. We also have a beautiful wedding garden right next door. And depending on what time of year you get married, you have different blooms that are blooming. From roses. Our wisteria was blooming in the spring.
It was gorgeous. Oh my gosh.
I like to, I have to admit, I selfishly take some pictures in front of the wisteria. Because
it's a beautiful backdrop.
I know. And they smell so good.
Yes.
I think it's probably one of my favorite floral scents is the wisteria. Roses and everything else. And it's a beautiful, beautiful garden and plenty of seating, and it's outside. It's
a very nice place for a nice, small, intimate kind of ceremony. We've had lots of people, and it's just beautiful when the weather cooperates.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
But you know, they say if it rains on your wedding day, it's good luck.
Yes.
Or do they just say that to make you feel better about the rain?
I probably think it's probably just to make you feel better.
I like to look at both sides of the coin. I'd like to think that there were a lot of happily ever afters in our chapel.
In our chapel.
And you know what's really awesome is like when they pronounce them husband and wife and they kiss for the first time as husband and wife, our bell rings.
Yes, they get the bell ringing so all of McKinney knows that somebody got married.
And you know, I think that's really great.
That's a great tradition.
Like back in the day, you kind of would know in town when people were getting married. Like either you'd hear all the cars honking as like they're driving by, and they've got the sign with like the cans behind. And there's really nothing like that anymore.
No.
Not that I've seen. So to have something like that's still a tradition that we still keep on, it like announces.
Right.
You know, such a happy occasion. I love that we do that.
It's beautiful.
And you can hear it down at the downtown square.
Yeah.
I heard it from there. I'm like, oh, that's our chapel bell.
Oh, someone got
married.
Somebody got married and he was kissed. In 1994, on November 30th, after the chapel was moved over, and I believe you actually talked to one of the women who helped move the chapel over, at 10:15 in the morning, a.m., the bell rang again for the first time at Chestnut Square. And so that is the same bell that rings when people get married.
Yeah, there's a story about it. And we are going to be playing my interview shortly in just a little bit. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, I loved the story of how they moved that chapel. So I could listen to it again, and especially from someone who actually was there the day that it was moved 30 years ago. It was, oh my gosh, it's been 30 years.
It was quite a feat. And so I think we should go ahead and listen to that interview now.
Okay.
So first, I want to thank you, Beverly, for coming today. What do you remember most about those ladies and what they did to start Chestnut Square?
Well, I guess Margaret Houston and Helen Hall for sure. Helen Hall knew everything in history you could imagine. Margaret Houston was just adamant about this place, and she would get kind of ticked if somebody wouldn't be helping us. And they had a hard time getting the city to really designate this like it is.
What are some of the obstacles that you may remember that they had when they were starting?
My husband's church is moving the church and the store, and that was a lot of work. My husband had to get all the permits, they were like 8 co-ops, telephone company, cable company, anything, and he got everything set to be moved. And the state said they would not move the light here on Highway 5 to get the church under. Like 3 days, he had everything in place, and they said they weren't going to move it. So he had to call everybody and cancel it. Then he got it all set again. And the state said they were not going to move it because they had to move that light right down here by the school, right down here. But I happen to have a friend that just happened to work in Lawrence Shapiro's office in Austin. She had just moved up there. I called her and said, is there anything you can do? So she got the state to come and agree to move that big traffic light so we could get the church under it. And then there was a man that did the truck. They came Custer to McKinney Ranch Road, to the service road of 75, up at Turrentine Funeral, came around back down that service road, up around McKinney Hospital. That's the only way they could go because they couldn't get under any 75. They even cut the top of the church off. So finally, it was dawn out there when they all the co-ops met. And it was at 9 o'clock at night when they finally got the church backed up in here and set. But when they were moving the church, they had to go over, I guess you'd call it low water crossings, where they had then on McKinney Ranch Road, you know, the telephone poles that are rounded that they use for on the side, they had maybe 8 of them. Well, they got there and the church wouldn't clear them. So somebody got a chainsaw, chopped off all the tops, and so they could get the big thing through to go get the church.
Holy cow.
And what else? When they had to have double cable companies go, and there were different electric companies because they were all co-ops. So they would take down the electrical and the cable, and they'd move a little through, and then when they get through, they'd put them back up. So those people were jump frogging, taking things down. As soon as they got through, they'd put it back up, and they'd have to run another crew to get them. So they jumped. So when they came around here, finally they did take the traffic light down, and he did get it moved. And of course, the bell tower was cut off because they had to. Because they couldn't do that big tall bell tower. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure it was like a really big deal in McKinney that day, was it?
Was.
It's probably like front page.
It was really something. And the bell, we had that big heavy bell in our gazebo we lived down here in church forever until they got the rest of the bell tower built. And then my husband had it sandblasted, and then they got it back up and got it right. The church windows came from a church on Custer between El Dorado, just north of El Dorado. I can see where it was, but it was on the west side. It was a small little chapel, and he got all the windows from that building. He didn't, but whoever he had working as the crew, yeah. So they did that. And Nina and Lawrence Rimley donated the front double doors. We had the back door that we donated. What else?
A labor of love.
A lot of things. Oh, when they got the church already, after months and months, we were having a great big open house, and they had the sidewalk in the front of the chapel on that side of the street, all set with a rebar and everything. And it was going to be, in 2 days, we were having this big open house. City came through and gave us a red tag. Here they had the blueprints for a year or so. My husband had it made 3-inch sidewalks like the rest of them, but since it was new, it had to be 4 feet. So they had to get all that rebar taken out, had it all redone, and finally tried to get the inspection from the city, So we finally got a rain tag, and they poured it just in time for it to cure, to have open house for that church.
Yeah.
And just to get the permits, you know, the city then wasn't as good. That's what would get him so frustrated.
Right. I can't imagine. I mean, we have in our scrapbooks how it took all day to move the church, but to hear it, and to hear everything that you had to do, and that the electric companies had to jump from section to section. I can't imagine starting off our 50th year without having
I can't either.
So
It was such a chore to get that all, not just him, but those other ladies to get the money to get that church here to begin with. They worked awfully hard.
I can imagine. Well, we're going to have another 50 years.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay.
I won't be here, but I hope so.
That was so interesting to hear that come from her, and that her husband was the first one that got to ring the chapel bell is amazing. I love hearing first-hand accounts like that.
Yeah, and they really had to, as you heard, they really had a lot to go through to get the chapel here, and it almost didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that we were able to do it, and the chapel is safely here now.
Yes.
We have lovingly restored it and take care of it, and it's such a charming chapel and building. Mm-hmm. And if I wasn't already married, I would definitely want to get married in the chapel. I really would. It's so cute.
It's very cute.
I
really love it. Yeah. It's a cute setting. Is that all for this time?
Well, June. Our wonderful camera crew has reminded me of one of our upcoming events, I guess you could say, that a lot of people definitely jump on. So, you know, you're going to want to definitely set your alarms, write down on your calendar. But we will be having our upcoming Christmas in July, which is when we sell tickets at a discount for our tea and tour in December. I'm thinking Christmas. It's only
When's
6 months away. 6 months.
6 months. Oh my goodness. Which we have our holiday tour of homes every December, and this year is no different. We're going to continue that tradition, where you get to tour some wonderful houses. They're beautiful.
It's a favorite here in McKinney. It's something that Chestnut Square has a lot of pride in, and we put a lot of love in, and we have wonderful historic homeowners that come forward, and they really go all out for our holiday tour of homes, and they decorate their homes, or it's just I remember some years they're incredibly decorated. Other years they probably weren't as much, but it didn't change the beauty of the home. It didn't change the history of the home and the fascinating stories that these homeowners shared. This last year, they weren't as decorated, but I wasn't disappointed at all because they had docents in every house, and they really talked you through on the history of the home, how the home was, and what the current homeowner or previous homeowners did to the house and what you're seeing today. The homes are beautiful. It always makes me a little sad to go to my home afterwards. Not that I don't love my house. I love my house.
Yes.
But to see these historic homes and some of the original woodwork and just the love that these homeowners put in.
It's amazing.
It really is. It's such
it's so cool to be able, because you see them from the outside and you think, oh, I wonder what that looks like inside. And this is a chance for you to get to actually go into them. So be sure to be on the lookout for our Christmas in July special. More information about that will be coming up on our social media. So if you're not a member, be sure to become a member of Chestnut Square. Details on our website at www.chestnutsquare.org so that you can get all of the perks and the inside scoop of what's coming up.
Because our memberships, also our members get special discounts. So not only do you get you get the inside scoop of when it's coming, but then you get a discount. And a lot of times when we have specials even, you get a discount on top of the discount. I mean,
Right.
who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't like a discount?
And the holiday tour of homes, as well as so many of our other events, they're just so fun and engaging. It's a great, it's a weekend. It's one weekend. So you get to see, you can go on a Saturday or Sunday. You can go on both days when you get your tickets. And it's fun for families. It's fun for friends to come along. We see both. We see groups of people that do it. And that's just an example of one of our events. But then we've got an event like our farm to table dinner, and it's almost more like a date night.
Right, it's a fun
kind
date
of
night.
event. So we have all kinds of events, like just all across the board. And so when you become a member, not only do you get the inside scoop and you get a little oh, by the way, this is going to go on sale, but then you also get your discount.
Yes. And you also get to purchase tickets sometimes before the public gets to purchase tickets, so that if it's like our murder mystery dinner theater, you are guaranteed to get a ticket before anybody else because you know about it.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of perks.
Membership has its perks.
And it also helps support Chestnut Square and our preservation efforts to keep history alive, to keep Chestnut Square going for another 50 years. It's just a wonderful nonprofit for the community and for generations to come. And everything that you put into Chestnut Square, that's what it goes to. It goes to Chestnut Square, preserving history, preserving these
into
stories.
The houses, into the into our collections, to make sure that generations to come, school children can come through. I know that we've had other people come through that kind of grew up in some of the same houses that we have, and they like reminiscing. So it's just a really fun way to keep the community alive as well.
You know, you just brought that up, and we're talking about the chapel. It wasn't that long ago that I was giving a tour, and there was a gentleman, and the chapel's not normally on our tour, but he's like, "Can I see inside of the chapel?" And I said, "Well, yes, I can bring you in." And he had gotten married in there before, 50 years or something before him. Before I think we even acquired it. He had gotten married there, and he had already lost his wife, but he wanted to. He was an older gentleman, and he wanted to go in there, and he was so happy to still see the building how it was, and it was a really touching moment. So it's just like that. It's just stories like that.
And then the fun ones are the school children that come back when they're grown up, that they were on a tour of Chestnut Square, and they come back here and get married to each other. That's
It does
so
happen.
Fun. Yes, that happens quite a bit. So please be sure to click subscribe to our podcast, share it with everybody that you know.
And make sure, again, keep your eyes open, because Christmas in July is coming.
Yes,
and you will not want to miss your opportunity to buy tickets for a holiday tour of homes at a discount price.